Yo, hello everyone. Wanted to give you a quick explanation, rundown, some context on what you're about to hear. So we thought that we lost an episode. I'll explain that later in this one. You'll hear that. We didn't. I found it. I guess we did lose it, and then I found it. So, and it's one of the episodes. I think it's episode 62 is what I found. Or episode 61. I don't remember. You'll figure it out. You listen to this. If you heard the previous episode that was lost, you'll go, oh, there's some overlap here. That's what it is. We found the episode, so it's not gone forever. You've already heard it if you're a listener to this podcast. So we apologize for the little bit of overlap there is here, but it's also, we expand on the conversation and kind of goes a different direction. So it's worth listening to kind of again, if that's how you want to see it, in my opinion. You don't have to. You can turn this off if you want. But, I don't know. Live your own life. Make your own decisions. But there you go. Love you guys. Bye.
Podcasting.
Hello, everybody. Microphone levels look good.
How am I over here?
Looking good.
All right.
Looking good, Jason.
Thank you. I am French.
Yeah. I don't like French people.
Seem to recall you saying they were gay.
I do think they're gay. They're gay pedophiles, all of them. Every French person. Even on an individual level.
I think we have a couple of French people listening. It was funny looking at the stats for Work Hard, and it's like 97% US,
yeah,
3% Belgium, 2% UK, and then less than 1% in like way too many other countries.
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
It's like one person from each country.
Yeah. So I shout out to y'all.
Yeah. I hope the language barrier isn't making things confusing.
Apparently not too much.
Nope. Shouts out, though. Hope you guys are doing all right. Geez Louise, dude. I can feel when my brain, it's like I'll be writing, like if I have like a long writing session, or I'm like on a really long meeting where I'm having to talk a bunch, or these recording sessions, I get to a point where I feel the blanket on my head. Like it's like somebody just puts a blanket on my brain, and everything just goes don. Yep, everything starts to shut down, and that's about beer o'clock for me.
Oh, okay, you need the energy.
Beer 1, beer 2, blanket ripped off, dude, ready to go. All 8 cylinders firing, fuel injectors squirting mist, ready to go, baby, ready to go.
Like in that sweet new excursion.
Oh my goodness, there we go. There's our intro topic, dude. You guys. A lot of the listeners already know this because they've seen it, but I got a new truck, baby. I got a new truck. Big old truck. It's the largest commercially, the largest consumer SUV ever made. It's huge. 9,000 pounds, 8 liter V8, 6.0 V8, Power stroke diesel engine, bulletproofed. Don't get upset. All right. You Ford guys out there, don't message me saying, oh, 7.3, what? I don't care. It's bulletproofed. The 6.0, it sounds amazing. It's so fast. You can kick rocks. I keep wanting to tell people to suck it.
What was that for?
I don't
Did I make a face?
No, because I think it's just so funny.
Oh, okay.
It's just so, but it's so inappropriate. I shouldn't be telling people to do that. So
Yeah.
I keep.
I think kick rocks is good.
Every time I tell somebody to kick rocks, just know in my head what I was saying was suck it.
Go soak your head.
Yeah, soak your head's pretty good, dude. I like
Jump
that.
in a lake was another one.
Yep. Yeah, jump in a lake. There's a comedian named Chris D'Elia who, whatever, it may not be funny or may not, but he's got a pretty good one, which is go to the store, buy a vest with a bunch of pockets, and take a hike. Pretty good. Pretty good. Buy a vest with a bunch of pockets, take a hike. Shouts out Chris D'Elia. Yeah, I got a nice new truck, and I think that'll actually kind of play into our topic a little bit today. I don't think a ton, but maybe a little bit. Yeah, it's very sick. I'm not used to driving diesels around, and according to Tannen, the 6.0 is kind of a rackety engine. So you'll see when we go to lunch, you'll see, but it is rackety. It's got like a sharp kind of noise to it.
Okay.
And I was terrified that it was
something wrong with
it because it wasn't
it sounded so good. It sounded broken.
Yeah, it sounded so good. It's broken. Yeah. On the drive home, it was warm outside from College Station when I bought it. It was warm outside, so that it wasn't that rackety. But the colder it is, the more rackety it is.
Okay.
And so then I got it, brought it home, drove it around for a day. It was kind of warm all day everywhere. And then the next day it was really, really cold, rainy. And I was driving around in it all day and it was like, that's not really what it sounds. That's not what it sounds like, but it sounds kind of almost a little like that. And so I was like, dude, like gonna throw up. So like something's wrong with my truck. Oh no, my truck. And dude, cause I've wanted one of these things forever since I was a kid. And it's like the perfect version of what I wanted. And,
Ethan can die happy now.
No, but it is a good, Doug Wilson has that, the story he tells about how when he and his son were building the house and there was a time when they were just working on it every day and just nothing changed. It just looked the same no matter how much effort they put into it. And so sometimes when they hit those pockets, he would just put up like a piece of drywall just to make it look like something.
It makes
changed.
A huge difference.
Yeah. And that truck is my drywall. Like after a decade of like grueling trenches, stressed out every day, trying to get things done, like just clawing, nagging amounts of just huge amounts of energy to move the ball just a tiny little bit.
Yep.
Like, because that's what it's like when you're getting started, in life. When you're in your 20s, like it's a tremendous amount of effort to get things to move just a smidge. And so, this year has been really, it's one of those, I made it. It took me 15 years to make it overnight, type situations where it was like, this year was the year where it like all came together. And I didn't realize how I was really kind of getting not necessarily depressed, but it was like almost creating this like negative feedback loop, how hard I was working and how little things were moving. And I didn't realize that till I got that truck. And Emily did know that. My wife did know that. She was actually very like, no, you need to get it. You deserve it. Like, it's going to be really, you should get it. And I prayed about it for weeks, that specific truck. Lord, if he doesn't sell it, I'll buy it. If he doesn't sell it, I'll buy it. And he just kept not selling it. So I called him and he was like, dude, I don't know why I still have this thing. It's crazy. And so I bought it and I was driving it home and I was like, it was almost as like hope inducing as when I first started learning about Bitcoin. It was like almost that.
I was afraid for a second that you were going to say when you were saved.
No, goodness gracious, no.
I was like, please don't make that illustration.
No.
Oh, Bitcoin. Yeah, that's fine.
No, yeah. No, it's nothing like that. Nothing like that. That was crazy. Getting saved was, I'm never going to experience anything like that again. No,
He doesn't love it that much.
No. If I woke up tonight and I felt in my bones that the Lord was like, you need to take a hammer to that thing,
Yeah.
I would do it.
Yeah.
It's not that important, man.
Yeah.
But it is important. It's not that important, but it is important.
Well, my house doesn't have any wall paneling right now.
Yeah.
Which it can be discouraging looking
Yeah.
at the thing.
Yeah.
And my dear eldest daughter, who is a go-getter and doesn't ask permission for a lot of things, but gets an idea and will do it.
Yeah.
She's not allowed to get into the tools or the nails or anything like that without permission. That has not stopped her. But my wife was trying to put the baby down. Baby wasn't going down. And we have these cedar panels that are about 3 inches wide and 4 feet long. And we've sanded some of them down and stained them, and they're just gorgeous looking. That will eventually cover all the walls in our house. And so it's going to be beautiful eventually. Right now it's just, insulation between studs and cardboard.
Yeah.
But it was before Christmas, and my eldest daughter took 2 of those finished panels and nailed them to the studs above the couch.
Dang.
So that my wife was just related to me how furious she was trying to put the baby down, and there's this hammering that's going on for a long time.
Oh, man.
She's like, when is this going to stop? And she finally comes out, and my daughter's like, hey, I put these, I thought you might like to see these on the wall. It was a very thoughtful.
Yeah.
It was entirely for my wife's benefit that she did this. It was an incredibly sweet thing.
Yeah.
And so these long nails, they're like 3 or 4 inch nails that she drove in part way, just enough to tack them to the studs.
That's awesome.
And it was encouraging. It was a blessing to my wife to have these wall panels put up incorrectly.
Yeah.
We were like, we're not going to use these nails here. We're going to use staples.
Yeah.
But, and then we eventually used those to hang the stockings on for Christmas.
That's
so
awesome.
they had a use beyond that as well. So it ended up being a blessing.
That's
It
awesome.
was very sweet.
That's sick. And that's
and very funny, and a very good picture of what she's like. She can be, she loves to give gifts, and she can be very thoughtful.
yeah.
And she's willing to break rules to do it sometimes.
I like that. That's a personality trait I can get behind.
Yeah.
That's sick. That's a great story, bro. That's actually awesome.
Yeah.
This is a very genuine, broad smile on my face.
Yeah. Well, maybe I hesitate to bring it down, I suppose. I didn't bring it up in the last episode, but immediately after our last recording, so a couple of weeks ago, I got a text from my wife as we were finishing up saying that my father-in-law was in the ER and that it sounded serious. So on the drive home, I talked with her, and he had been taken to the ER with just like extreme weakness and confusion and everything. And long story short, over the next couple of days, we found out that he has terminal brain cancer.
Yeah.
And the prognosis is the median survival rate is 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
He's so it's been a very hard last couple weeks, and over right over the holidays, or right over Christmas, I should say. Yeah. So it's going to be a rough year for the family, for sure. So we definitely appreciate your prayer, workers.
Yeah.
If you can be praying for him, and for me and my family as we go through all this together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, we love you, Steve, and we're praying for you.
Yeah, shouts out Steve, bro. Big ups. Yeah, man. And that it's very life keeps going.
Yeah,
And
you can't just
yeah.
bring everything to a screeching halt and say we're going to spend 24/7 together. So it's, struggling with how to, it's going to be disruptive, and
Yeah.
we want to spend as much time as possible with him while he's as coherent and feeling as well as he is. And miraculously, after the surgery, he's regained far more function, and it seems to be pretty much normal
It's good.
for now, which we were not expecting. Going into the surgery, they told us he might not remember people. coming out of it.
Jeez Louise, man.
So my poor wife had to, like, essentially, she said goodbye to her dad a couple weeks ago, thinking he might not remember her afterwards. And so it's been that level of, and God was very gracious in allowing him to have full mental functions afterwards and be up and around.
Very good.
Not even using a walker or a cane right now, getting around the house. So we're incredibly grateful for what we have been given, even in with such a lousy prognosis.
Yeah.
As it is, but
yeah.
Anyway,
well, maybe that's a sign of what's to come. Who knows?
Possibly, yeah. It's there's obviously God can work miracles, and people have been given prognosis like these before and have far outlived, the medical community's expectations. So
yeah,
obviously our prayer is that he does, quote unquote, beat the odds in that way.
Yeah.
But it would be obviously a God thing. It's always a God thing, but with something this dire, in a human way of speaking, there is no hope.
Yeah.
As far as treatment options, it's incurable.
Yeah. Yeah. We had my best friend from high school, who's still to this day, my A1 nigga. His dad passed away when we graduated. And, but his dad had cancer forever. And the prognosis every time was, you're going to die, like,
right,
in a few weeks, like every time. And every single time he was like, not yet. and just kept living. And like, to the point that our running joke was that he's obviously immortal.
Yeah.
Like, obviously cancer is not a problem for him. He keeps chiefing it. Like, there's just no issue here. But it did finally get him, which I think was, I don't know, whatever. But it was good. There was strangely, in a strange way, there's like, light in some of the darkest places you can imagine,
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
God's grace abounds in times like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's easy to forget God when things are going easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's easy to shake your fist when things aren't going great. So you forget him on one hand, and then the only time you remember him is to get mad at him.
Right.
Yeah. Not a great way to conduct yourself, I would say.
No. If you are of an eternal mindset, if your perspective is correct, if it is godly, then that won't be your response.
Yeah.
Your response hopefully will be to be like Job, who suffered incredibly, and over time he definitely got angry and questioned God, but he didn't forsake his faith.
Yeah.
Despite even his wife, urging him to.
Yeah. Good for Job, dude. Shouts out Job, dude.
Yeah. Read the book of Job.
Yeah.
Read the book of Job.
So, sorry guys, a little heavy, but
yep,
I hope you guys can appreciate that that's sometimes not inappropriate. We got a show for you today.
Yes, we do.
Our topic, so to give you guys a little, actually, you know what? You want to do the Between the Cushions first before we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do Between the Couch Cushions.
All right.
Those forms of media, books, movies, video games, anything that you may not have known was missing in your life.
Yes. Mine is, I've made this recommendation before, but now I'm going to make it officially. So I'm kind of cheating, but you're going to have to live with it. Which is the Book of the New Sun. I believe it's a 4-book series. I think it's like the first 3 books really do kind of have a nice bow on them.
Okay.
And so the 4th book it kind of feels like a little bit of an addendum, a little bit.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know that it is really, because I'm just, I'm a peon. All right. I'm not some great literary master. So I don't necessarily know for sure if I'm judging that correctly, but it does feel a little bit, whatever the 4th book
doesn't feel whatever. You get what I'm trying to say.
Maybe not necessary.
Yeah, maybe not necessary. But it's very good. The fourth book is still really, really good, and the Book of the New Sun in general, the series, 3-book series, is really profound. And it's not. I wouldn't say that. I think that there are some philosophical elements to it that are cool, philosophical themes that are cool, but it's not like that. It's not like a C.S. Lewis fiction book. It's not like a Philip K. Dick book. Anything. It's not like that. At least I don't think my experience of it is not that. Really, more of what it is like an examination of time and how sort of epic and sweeping and broad. Like if you feel like you have a small view of history or like the grand narrative of existence or reality or whatever, and you want to expand that out to a more cosmic, total view of things, this is a good 3 books to read because it's very, in theory, the book takes place over the entire breadth of all time that has ever existed. But I won't go too far into that because it'll kind of ruin it. But it's really very, very good. It's about humanity. It doesn't really ever clarify if it's very far in the future or very far in the past. But it's one of these dying Earth, which I've talked about in the past. These dying Earth type science fiction fantasy books, and it's got one of the elements that it explores is something that I'm deeply fascinated with, which is the idea of like a much more primitive people living in the ruins of a much more advanced people. And just like seeing how they interact with the different technologies and stuff, and like thinking that like holograms are ghosts and things like that. Like
Interesting.
it's very cool. It's very cool. And so it's definitely hard. It's a hard read. It's definitely more than a one read through. I made the mistake by reading them in chunks. I think you have to read them. If you're going to start reading one of the books, you need to really commit and read it like at least twice a week. Because if you start separating it out where it's like I'm reading,
you're going to miss.
You're going to, it's just not, it's, yeah, you're going to forget, and it's already so hard to follow.
You'll lose track of threads and characters and all that.
Yeah,
Too
yeah.
complicated. Dune is like that, I think.
Yeah, Dune is definitely like that.
You will lose track of all the...
Yeah.
Even looking back now, I can't remember all the details of it. I remember it was incredibly fascinating, but it's dense.
Yeah. It's very Dune. I would say it's way more dense than Dune.
Oh my.
Like there are parts in it that you'll be reading and you'll read a whole chapter and you'll sit there at the end of it going, I don't even understand the sequence of events. Like I don't even understand like actually how it happened.
Yeah.
And you're like, you have some understanding. It's like almost like talking to like a homeless schizophrenic person where you like walk away from the conversation and you're like, there was something he was trying to say, but I can't, it was so disjointed that my mind doesn't even have anywhere to categorize it. So I can't even remember like a single whole sentence that he said. And it's like that, but it's not actually fractured. It's like a cohesive thing.
Right. It's understandable, but you got to be paying attention while you're reading it.
Because he's hitting these like extremely complex biological and mechanical technologies, like he's talking about them through the eyes of someone who uses a sword.
Right.
And so it's like
interesting.
You're trying to decipher like what he's talking about when he's like describing this thing that he's interacting with, and it's very cool. It's very cool. It's very stimulating. Great book. Great 3 books. Great 4 books, I guess actually. So yeah, that's my rec.
I'm going to change my rec.
Okay.
I remembered a different series that my wife and I have adored, and we've read them on and off throughout our marriage together. It's the James Herriot books.
Okay, never heard of them.
Never heard of them? James Herriot, it's a writing name, so it's a real person, but James Herriot's not his true name. but all the stories, as far as I can tell, are based in reality. So he writes from a first-person perspective in these. It's written as kind of biographical in a way.
Yeah.
He was a country vet back in, I think it was the early 20th century. I think it's right around World War One. One of the books occurs during World War One.
Okay.
Pretty sure about that. May have been World War Two. Pretty sure it's World War One. Anyway, just to give you an idea of the technology level that he's dealing with, he was a country veterinarian in Yorkshire, England.
Okay.
And he is extremely gifted. He writes in the accent of the Yorkshire country farmers.
Yes, nice.
Like the hard-bitten, just tough as nails Yorkshire farmers.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And he has a boss. So he starts out in the first book. There's a whole bunch of them. I think there's 4 in the main series, as far as I can tell. If you look up All Creatures Great and Small, that's his series, and you can buy a box set of 4 or more. I'm looking it up now. It looks like there's a bunch of others that I haven't read, but there's 4 primary ones called All Creatures Great and Small, All Things Bright and Beautiful, All Things Wise and Wonderful, and The Lord God Made Them All. And this man has such a love for animals and people and the Yorkshire countryside that he lives in. He describes it beautifully each time, like almost a little bit like he loved it so much that he uses a lot of the same descriptors. So reading through it, you're like, he'll stop on a country drive and get out and just enjoy the view. And so his descriptions of it are similar, right? So it can almost be a little redundant, but you can tell that like he just loved it. It was a beautiful place to live. But he also talks about it's very comedic because of the experiences that he has being on his own out there in a rickety car with no, prior to air conditioning and everything, having to get out in the middle of the night in an England winter, strip down, take his shirt off basically in a drafty barn, soap up his arm and stick it into the backside of a cow to help birth a calf.
Yeah.
Stories like that.
Yeah.
To where he's like fumbling around for like a couple of hours on his chest, on these cobblestones, trying to get cows to birth and sheep and all that.
Oh my goodness.
It's ridiculous stories. And he talks about like getting a bucket of water, trying to soap up his arm, and he finds he swishes around in this like cold pail of water in the middle of the night and he finds this like little ball of hard soap that he can't even lather up. So like the descriptions are painfully hilarious at times. And throughout all of that, though, he maintains like that he loves this career, even though some of these things that he goes through are just terrible.
Yeah.
But he also is a great descriptor of like, he is a master of observing humans and their interactions and their relationships with their animals.
Yeah.
And he appreciates that and portrays that so well into the books that it's phenomenal reading.
Yeah.
It's funny and heartwarming, and some of it's heartbreaking because of the failures or deaths of animals and things like that.
Yeah.
Of poor farmers. But anyway, so James Herriot, All Creatures Great and Small. Go out and buy it. It's fantastic. And it's even funnier if you're in the medical community because you have your own stories and it relates. Even though these are animals, it's like the things that you run into with patients.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Good. That's awesome. Sick. Well, there we go. That is Between the Couch Cushions. All right. Time for the main topic. Time to mark it. Boom. Marked. Hello, everybody. So before we jump into this, give you some context here. I made a mistake. I don't know how, but we lost an episode. We lost a good episode, too. A really good episode.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah. Really tough one. Very tough one.
You'll never know.
You'll never know, dude. Maybe one day we'll be able to rehash it in a way we'll both be interested enough in it for it to be that good. But basically, it
was a real true discussion between Ethan and I about simple versus complex societies.
Yeah.
Ethan had made a comment in one of the Maximum Alert episodes that chafed me about complex societies being better than simple societies. And so we talked about historically, most societies have the base layer of the pyramid of the workforce. If you imagine the workforce of the populace being like a pyramid, at the tippy top you have the elites, and there's very, very few of them in comparison. All the specialists, right? All the specialists, the doctors and everything are right there at the top.
Yeah.
The bottom layer, laborers, farmers, people who provide the bare essentials of what you need. So largely food producers in a historical context, because there's just there has historically been such a difficulty in bringing about enough food to provide for your family and your civilization at large.
Yeah.
And so what I mistakenly took, Ethan, to mean is that okay, so a little more context, I guess. I have read a couple of books that are focused on the negative aspects of the Industrial Revolution and what it has done to the family.
Yeah.
It has fractured the family because when the Industrial Revolution came about and there was a huge need for human hands and in the factories doing all the work that
at a location
that machines do, right, at a location that's not the home.
Right.
So basically the Industrial Revolution took people out of the home. Historically, the family always worked together. The family economy, the families were tied together not just through blood relations and love for one another, but through necessity, because we needed farming families had large families. Child death was a real and common thing. And so, and obviously it wasn't birth control, obviously, either.
Right.
Aside from abstinence, which, and so you would have large families that were tied together because they were all needed to help run the farm. There was just so much manual labor needed on the farm that it could not be done without, and there wasn't enough money in it. It wasn't a financial venture. It was a survival and like a self-sustaining venture.
Yeah.
There was very little cash in it. It was just the family providing for itself. And so the families were very strong. They were not segmented or divided in any way. And the Industrial Revolution came along and said, we will pay the husband a meager amount, we'll pay the wife a meager amount, we'll pay any child who can lift a hammer a meager amount, and you all get the same wage. It's more complicated than that, but this is an oversimplification. Basically, the husband can't work enough at these jobs to provide for the whole family.
Right.
So when you're going to a cash system, as opposed to just you provide everything yourself system and you buy very little. And so I am nostalgic, as a lot of people are, especially with the homesteading movement, where people have gone back to living on property, having animals, growing a lot of their own stuff, and a lot of that is born out of a really sick food system.
Yeah, and just to interject here and say, I'm part of that. So I'm a tech bro, but Jason and I have had disagreements on this kind of stuff. But I also, as we had this conversation, I want you guys to realize that it's not that I don't recognize the truth of everything Jason's saying. Mm-hmm. I'm out here in the country. I got chickens. We're working on getting pigs and rabbits, and I'm with it. So
yeah. So a lot of this was just a clarification.
Yeah, that's what it ended up being. Yeah.
We actually aren't really that far off.
Right.
But which
I think is really, that's kind of the
where we came around to is that, and the other part of it was when you said complex societies are more stable. That's the issue that I had with it.
Yeah,
because one of the books I've read was talking about the explosion in career descriptions.
Yeah.
Explosion in careers. Or trades, rather. Trades is probably a better word. There used to be, I'm just throwing a number out there. There used to be 100 careers.
Yeah, you were a candle maker, a blacksmith.
Right. You had one thing that you did to earn coin.
Right.
As opposed to growing, and a lot of those people would grow their own stuff on top of that.
Yeah.
There weren't grocery stores.
Yeah.
It
was
some
your
markets.
job was like effectively a side hustle.
Right. That was to bring in the cash necessary to buy the few things that were manufactured that you couldn't do at home as easily.
Yeah.
Obviously, all this is on a scale, and it ramped up really fast in the Industrial Revolution. So it was a huge disruption to the way things had been working a little bit more gradually. So this is the result of a very fast and hard adjustment in how we live. and the materials that are available, and it's resulted in tremendous leaps and bounds of technological progress in the reducing the expense of items that were exponentially or that were out of reach for the common man.
Yeah.
And now we all have smartphones, and we're right now looking at 3 different computer monitors on a high-tech machine that, there's air conditioning, there's all sorts
this
cars.
computer is many orders of magnitude more complex and more powerful than the one that put Apollo on the moon.
Right.
Yeah.
Downstream from the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people are focused on, and not wrongly, and I'm in this camp, is that we're concerned about what it did to the family.
Yeah.
So now everyone works separately. Families are disjointed. Sons and daughters are at odds with their parents, and nothing ties them together because they don't work together in any facet at all.
Yeah.
And so that, I believe, is fundamentally in conjunction with the food issue. So health is another big driver, is why people are going back to homesteading and trying to regain some of this familial tightness.
Yeah.
And so while Ethan is in the tech world, he is working from home, and he's doing these things, to provide better nutrients and a little bit more sustainability to his own family that way. And in that way is tying his family together by they raise things together. They do some things together. Ethan doesn't leave for 80 hours a week.
Yep.
And come back. And so if fathers were out of the home, when fathers were taken out of the home, they had less influence over their family. There is no leadership in the family if everyone's disjointed. They are just earning wages so they can buy crap that they want, and it leads to materialism, an overabundance of things that we don't need, in addition to the things that do actually benefit society.
Yeah.
So I saw that as the overly complex society, too much specialization. I saw as a problem because everything is so specialized. Nobody knows how to fix more than one very specific problem. It's out of their job description, and so therefore, something breaks, and only this one company here can fix it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't work as well because you don't have the guy who can fix everything anymore. It's impossible. There's just too much diversity and complexity and increase in the level of technology and changes in it that nobody can keep up with more than a small segment of it. We used the illustration too that there was a couple at our church who had a pregnancy issue, a complication, and they had to go to a different city basically to see a surgeon who specializes in this like one kind of operation basically. He's like worldwide known. And they met somebody there who was from Korea or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
He's from the other side of the world who had come for this same treatment because it is so specialized.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I was like, that guy dies in a car crash. There's nothing to back him up.
Yeah.
Like nobody else is doing that as well. So that was a weakness that I saw. When I heard the word complex society, what I imagined was a very big, fragile machine.
Yeah, overly engineered engine.
Overly engineered that has a million different components.
Yeah.
And if one component fails, like the engine throws a rod through something and destroys half of the rest of the machine, and nothing moves anymore because one component failed.
Right.
And so what we came to as our conclusion and where we found agreement was what he actually means by complex. He's more talking about, I prefer the word redundancy.
Yeah. I would take it a step further in saying that one of the points that I don't know if I made it well during that recording or that conversation, but I did say, I see a lot of flack about the sort of, mass consumer culture. One of the things I hear often is that everything is cheap and crappy.
Yeah.
And while that is true, the counter to that is, well, in many, not in all cases, obviously, but in many cases, those things that you're talking about that are cheap and crappy are either cheap and crappy or you can't have them.
Right.
And the way I know that you would prefer the cheap and crappy version of it is that you have it.
Right.
And so to the complexity issue, I would say the reason I tie that together with the complexity, or how I tie that together with the complexity issue, is I would say that it's either that doctor exists and can treat that child
For as long as he lives and is capable.
or
And teaches others.
yeah, and teaches others, or that child dies. And so, yes, there is that innate insecurity in the fact that if he's gone, then no one else can do it.
Or at least as well.
Or at least as well.
He's just the best, I
He's
should
the best,
say, as
yeah,
far
he's
as
the-
I'm aware.
Yeah.
He's not the only one, but he is does the most of those surgeries. He's chosen to specialize in that.
Yeah. And so either he can do it and we can have that problem, that fear of him dying at any time or whatever, or we could just not have that solution at all.
It's off the table.
Right. Exactly.
And everyone with that problem is going to die.
Right.
Or be maimed or whatever the problem may be.
yeah. So,
So which world would you rather live in?
right.
And also, you don't get a choice. So that brings us to
The
topic.
the topic of today.
Really quick, though, I should say another concession that I made was that in farming, having a simple farming model, as in narrow, simple as in narrow, is not good. If you have all of your eggs in one basket, as it were, that basket gets dropped, all the eggs break, you have nothing to eat.
Right.
But if you have eggs and you have vegetables and you have an orchard and you have meat animals, eggs all break, you can still slaughter a calf and eat.
Yeah.
So a good homestead is one that is diversified,
Yeah.
is one that is redundant in a way. You have backups. Instead of planting one kind of garlic, you plant 2 or 3. Therefore, if one doesn't do well, you still have the others. One might do well one season because of the conditions that you can't predict, Farmer's Almanac notwithstanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have backups. In other words, you don't have an orchard. Having an orchard of all apple trees that extends for hundreds of acres and has thousands or millions of trees in it, you get one insect that rises up or one blight that passes through, and all those trees are so close together they're touching, easy as all get out for that thing to wipe out. And now your industry's done.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
So oversimplification is not good.
Right,
You
and
need
one of the
redundancy.
concessions that I made is that over complexity for complexity's sake and over specialization are obviously a problem, and that there have been. I'm a huge fan of markets and modernity and technology. I think it's all great, but there are obvious, undeniable problems that have arisen from the Industrial Revolution, not least of which are with the family, that have to be addressed. And that my argument would be, though, that the way to address them is not backwards, but forwards. I think that over time, I don't think this is going to happen soon, but I do think that over the next 100 years, more and more and more people's jobs will look like mine, where I'm at home. And I think the cost of things, I don't think people are going to make so much more money. I just think the cost of things are going to get driven so low that it's going to get to the point where
Through true efficiency.
through true efficiency. Yeah. And
Not cutting corners like we were talking about last week,
Right.
of the bean counters who go, well, quality control out the window because that's costly.
Right.
And we want to make our margins larger for this year, so we're going to slash everything. We were a reputable brand,
Right.
and now we're going to outsource everything to Mexico, not double check it, and send out parts that have a 40% failure rate.
Right. And we're due for a wave of true efficiency.
Yeah,
we've-
because we've kind of reached that peak of like things are not working. We can't
Yeah.
fix stuff.
Right.
Nobody knows how to fix the things we do have that can be fixed. So we need people in different jobs,
Right.
and we need those things to actually be repairable.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And we have swung way to mass production is such an amazing thing that we, as a race, went, well, obviously
We need more of this.
we need the most of this we could possibly get because this
Yeah.
is going to solve every problem and usher in utopia, which is obviously not true. So we swung way too far to the side of creating everything in mass, and we need to bring that back in. And we are, and it is happening, that's coming back in. People, I mean, how many times is handmade a part of some product's marketing thing now these days?
Yep. A desire for something that a human being has touched.
Right. Yeah. So we're
That's viewed as quality and beautiful.
yeah,
In a way the machine can't do, even if it is more perfect in some way. People like some of the
imperfections.
imperfections.
It's human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should also touch on, you made a really good point about, well, you talked about the Industrial Revolution being downstream from the agricultural revolution.
Right.
And about, before I lose it, and about progress being, technological progress being a force of nature that cannot be stopped. So you want to touch on those two things, and then we'll get on to refining and kind of come into our secondary topic if we've got time.
Yeah. So the what I wanted to touch on when I brought that up originally about the agricultural revolution is that there's this in the like return to tradition type homesteading group that I'm a part of. I'm not speaking about this group belligerently or in a negative way.
Just with eyes wide open.
Yeah, just with eyes wide open. But a lot of the things that I hear about that, a lot of the feedback and critique I hear is all about the Industrial Revolution, how bad the Industrial Revolution was. And the issue I take with that is that the Industrial Revolution was a result of the Agricultural Revolution, which many homesteaders would be very remiss in denigrating because of how amazing the Cultural Revolution or the Agricultural Revolution was for their passion. And so before the Agricultural Revolution, it took 20 people to make food for 21 people, which is a staggering amount of human labor. The Agricultural Revolution occurred, and the Agricultural Revolution was one simple discovery, and that was that if you introduced, what are they called, Jason? You have the term for it. When you introduce plants that bring nitrogen back into the
nitrogen
soil,
fixers,
nitrogen fixers,
dandelions for one.
Yeah, dandelions.
You know, the thing
alfalfa.
that nobody wants in their, the thing that Roundup has been warring against.
Right. Yeah. Alfalfa, certain beans. If you introduce those
legumes, I think.
Yeah, legumes. If you introduce those into fields that are fallow, you can actually use them. It'll have two effects. One, you're now growing food on fields that could otherwise not have food grown on them, and it's reintroducing nitrogen into that soil so that you can then use it to grow potatoes.
Which, if you look at fertilizers, was one of the three primary, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, I think.
Okay.
NPK is what you'll see on fertilizers, the ratings of those. So nitrogen is one of the key ingredients.
Okay.
Not to mention all the trace minerals and everything that are necessary for making nutritious food, but a lot of things won't grow without nitrogen. So if your soil has been depleted of that because you've been growing tons of corn or soy and sucking all of it out and not putting anything back in, basically if you're not fertilizing your soil and building it back up after you use it with a heavy feeding kind of you get out what you put into it, basically.
Right.
You can't come across to good land in the Midwest and then suck it dry and go, I wonder why the corn's not growing.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, what's happening? Yeah. So, so the Agricultural Revolution occurred, and what that discovery did was it basically reversed that number, turned that number on its head. So instead of 20 people making 21 people's food, now like 3 people can make 19 people's food. Something like that. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it's something like that.
Yeah, huge increase in productivity.
Huge increase in food productivity. And it increased the amount of food that was available for animals. So now you can feed animals more food. So there's more and larger animals that are then making more manure, which is helping the soil get rich again and feeding people. So it's an exponential rate of return that spirals quickly into a ton of human labor being freed up. Now, all that human labor had to go somewhere.
Which is why the pyramid got inverted.
Right, exactly.
Now farmers are if the pyramid turned over on its head, and farmers are, 3% of the populace or something.
Right, because we just don't need that many farmers anymore. It's not a matter of, and this is another point that I made. I think the point that I was making on the podcast that you heard that originally started this was that I was saying that people get upset because there's only like 3 million farmers now or something to the 350 million people that exist. And I was saying that that's not a sign of instability in the system. That's a sign of stability, because it shows how efficient farming has gotten.
They are aging, though. That is a sign of instability.
That is a sign of instability.
The median
yeah.
age, and Joel Salatin, if you don't know who Joel Salatin is, look up some of his lectures. He's a brilliant farmer, accountant, and public speaker, and possibly advisor possibly going to have a government role. It's been talked about. Trump maybe bringing him on to the FDA or the USDA,
something like that.
One,
yeah,
which would be phenomenal because he's extremely intelligent and knows all about soil regeneration. They've brought their farms land from like a 1% organic material up to like 7 or 8%.
Crazy.
Just crazy, from bringing on, just feeding the soil, running animals over it in a routine way.
Yeah.
They've got their system down.
Yeah. So the Industrial Revolution is a result of the agricultural revolution freeing up all this human labor. So that was
we
one.
do need young farmers. That was the point I was trying to make.
Oh yeah. Now here's
so
the
the number of farmers may not be a problem.
Way easier to replace 3 million farmers than it would be to replace 300 million farmers. So that's
except that it is a true educated trade.
That's true. It is very complex.
The impression of farmers is that they're dumb hicks.
Yes, which is
retarded
beyond belief. Retarded.
Because if you listen to Joel Salatin for 10 minutes, you'll realize how dumb you are about soil.
Let's get in the truck and drive anywhere, a mile in any direction from this spot, and go knock on the door, hand the old guy that answers it a beer, and ask him how his day's going.
Yeah.
And you'll understand very quickly that farming is one of the most complex trades that you could. It's like it's on the level of being a doctor. It's extremely complex.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that point, and then the other point was, what was the other thing? The
force of nature.
Oh yes, so that's another thing that I
technological
want to introduce into the discourse that people do not understand. And I don't know if this is an Ethan original thought, but I haven't heard it anywhere, and it's extremely important that people understand this, which is that the technological progress is a force of nature, like the wind, like the sun rising. It is not no one can control it. You can have an influence on its direction. You can manipulate it maybe slightly. The best case scenario that you have is to harness its power for your own gain. That's it.
You gave a great illustration of the free market. I think the free market is what you said was a power of nature.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah, markets and technological progress.
And you were talking about even animals participating in the free market.
Right.
In that they will exchange one thing for another. So that's what you were defining the free market as.
Right.
And governments can tax certain things and promote other things and subsidize this and that, so they'll mess with it, but they can't do away with the free market entirely. It's the level to which they engage with and take the brakes off the free market and allow their citizens to actually
engage in it. Yeah.
Participate. Yeah.
Yeah. For the free market is a state of nature. It is not a system designed by humans. So prices, that was the analogy I was making with animals, is that prices are factored into animals' lives. An animal decides how much it's worth to go after the chickens in my coop. The price is the calories it will burn trying to get the chickens out and the time it's going to spend, but it's still that's a price.
Yeah.
It's just a different monetary value.
The energy and risk and all that.
Right, exactly. It's still factoring all that stuff in. So those things are factors of nature. They're unavoidable. And so that, I think, is a great segue into our our secondary topic, the thing that we wanted to bring in, which is engaging with the world as it is and not as you want it to be. And I think a great way to think about this is in those terms of technological advancement is a force of nature. And so you may resent that the world is in what's called digital transformation. That's what the term is called in my world, where a company is going from an old analog way of doing things. Maybe a simple example is all of the records in a hospital, all the patient records are kept on paper in a room in boxes and files. A digital transformation is them taking all of that information and putting it into a server.
Right.
And so now it's just one stack in a closet, and anybody that's plugged into that server can access any of it very easily at any time.
Across different hospitals.
Yeah. Different hospitals, different patients.
And that was kind of in transition when there was also the different softwares.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the software that the nurses used, but I think at first it was like, well, if you took somebody to a Kaiser Permanente hospital and they're usually going to a Providence hospital, all the records are there. It was not simple or immediate for Kaiser Permanente to just pull up their records to be able to treat this person emergently,
Right.
which is a problem.
Yeah.
If you don't know what their allergies are and they're comatose, you're like, well, I hope we don't give anything that's going to kill them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So you're kind of flying blind. You're starting anew with a person. Whereas once they got those technologies all aligned and said, yeah, as long as you're a medical provider, you're going to be able to access these because it's one system. Then you have continuity of care across multiple insurance and hospital systems and are better able to treat someone who comes to you emergently. They couldn't make it 45 minutes to the other one. The ambulance brought them to the closest hospital, which happens to not be in network.
Yeah.
But they can still pull up their files and go, here's their allergies, here's their medical history, here's the comorbids we're dealing with, as opposed to just looking at the person and running labs and going like, well, we're going to treat based off of what we can just figure out here in the next 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the, how to, I personally, all right, you guys have probably figured this out by now. I personally despise the current financial system that we exist in. A debt-driven system is a system devoted to mammon. It is a system, I guess not necessarily devoted to mammon. It's not, a debt-driven system is not inherently evil, but it is so prone to shenanigans and corruption and mania that it's like it might as well be inherently evil. You know what I mean?
It's, yeah. The temptation is so close.
Yeah, it's so close that it's just like you can't. How can you? I don't think if I was given the reins of power over the money printer, I don't think that I would have the willpower to not immediately start printing as much money as possible and giving it to all my friends. I don't think I would be able. I barely have the will. I'm fat. I don't have the willpower to not eat too much. I can't. Yeah, dude. I don't have the willpower to stop that. That being said, we do live in a fiat system. We do live in a debt system. And so you have to play the cards you got dealt. Now, to make it even more specific, we live in a crumbling fiat system where the interest rate on any debt really is going up while the Fed is cutting rates. Terrifying, by the way. I won't go into why that's scary, but that's a very clear indicator that the people that are in control are no longer in control. No one is in charge anymore. It is completely outside of anybody's.
It goes back to that force of nature thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Self-correction will happen eventually.
Yeah, it will happen eventually, and it is coming. And because we're in this crumbling fiat system, I recently just went and got my home refinanced to find money for hyper premium and get money to remodel our house so that I can. We're having a baby and we need more house, and so we're gonna make some additions. Whatever, details don't matter. But I'm staring down the barrel of like an almost 7% interest rate, which is absurd over the life of that loan. I mean, it's like almost 150% over the life of that loan. So it's just. Like you can't do that. You can't allow that to occur. That loan has to be paid off as quickly as possible. It's just bad. It's bad financial management to keep that rate around. But I could sit here with my arms crossed and go, harumph, we should be on a gold standard. The fact that it's a house, I'm getting a house refinanced. It's good collateral. I should be paying 1% on this loan. I could be doing that. And you know what would happen? Nothing would happen. No house, no hyper premium, no Bitcoin, no truck, nothing. And it's not, and we don't, with the house, we don't have a choice. We don't have a dishwasher or a washing machine, and there's no rooms in our house. So when our baby is born and she's scream crying every night and waking up my daughter and retarding my daughter's mental progress because the valuable amount of like mental of brain development that goes on while children are sleeping, like my daughter's going to lose IQ points if I don't build this house, if I don't build a room in our house. So you can begrudge and shake your fist at the agricultural revolution. You can shake your fist at the industrial revolution. You can shake your fist at tech bros. You can shake your fist at bankers. You can do all that stuff. You can waste all that energy getting all bent up out of shape going, it shouldn't be this way, like our friend Dave Ramsey. Or you can get with the times and make the best of the hand you got dealt and get yourself out of it. The only way out, it's I know it sucks, but it's the in Canterbury in the Quest for the Holy Grail, which I'm reading right now. All the knights go into the woods where it looks darkest to them. That's where they go in, where it's scariest to them to go find the Holy Grail. The only way is through, brother. What's we're going on a bear hunt. You can't go over it. We can't go under it. We got to go through it. The only way to break free of the debt system is through the debt system. Trying to save your way out trying to save your way into financial freedom is... All right. First of all, Dave Ramsey didn't save his way into financial freedom. This whole thing has started because my algorithm has been feeding me Dave Ramsey stuff. And so I've been hate watching it. Now, before I say anything else negative about Dave Ramsey, if you're retarded and you don't know how to handle money, Dave Ramsey's system is fantastic for you. If you don't want to think about it, if this is something you don't want to, if you're fine to work a job for the rest of your life and gamble on whether or not you can actually retire. First of all, Dave Ramsey has this thing where he's like, oh, on my system, you'll definitely be able to retire. Incorrect. Wrong. You don't know. Dave Ramsey's great big strategy: buy real estate and index funds. Retard. What's going to happen if that real estate gets destroyed? I got insurance. Go ask Allstate how they feel about the houses in Florida right now and if those places are going to be insured. All the houses on the Florida coast. Go see if the insurance that those people have been paying into for decades is going to cover that when the hurricane hits next year. It's not. They're leaving. All the insurance companies are leaving all the coastal areas, and you can't get insurance on it. So what happened to all your nice real estate, Dave Ramsey? Oh, it's gone? Index funds, retard stuff. Do you know why index funds are retarded? Because you are attaching winners to losers. An index fund is a basket of different stocks or annuities, a basket of securities.
It's exposure to the whole range.
Right. It's an exposure to the whole range. And the idea is that you're diversifying, so you're making it safe. That's the idea. It is incorrect. You are attaching, if you go by the S&P 500, you are attaching the Magnificent Seven, which had you just bought NVIDIA last year, you'd be a millionaire or something, something retarded. But you're attaching it to like GE, which is one of the greatest losing stocks of like all time right now. So index funds are not actually a useful tool. They're a useful tool if what you want to do is be poor, but they're not. That's a joke. I'm joking. Jason just frowned at me. I'm joking. Being hyperbolic. Index funds are great if what you want to do is lose all of your money to inflation and never think about it. But if you actually want to get ahead in life, you're going to have to engage in the financial system and understand how Bitcoin works and understand what Tesla is. It's not a car company. It's a software company. Understand why NVIDIA's going hyperbolic and why it's going to crash soon, and figuring out where you have to go figure out where to put your money. Now, here's the thing. That sucks, and you shouldn't have to do that. Okay? A auto mechanic should be able to go to his job and put his money in his pocket, put it in a bank account, and have it be his money and save up $2 million over the course of his entire career. And then whenever he's done 50, 60, whatever time he wants to wrap it up, just live off of that and move in with his kids and leave a little nest egg for them, maybe a couple $100,000. And that should be that. That should be the normal human life in the modern era. And that's the life that Dave Ramsey is selling you. It doesn't exist right now. It doesn't exist. That isn't a thing. That's not possible. We are in a debt fiat system. We will be for probably the foreseeable future. I don't know when that's going to change. It's going to have to eventually, but I don't know that it'll change before I'm dead. And I'm 30, so it's going to be a minute, I think. Hopefully. I hope I don't die anytime soon. And so, if you are trying to save your way to financial freedom, like Dave Ramsey recommends, you're going to be in hot water. And so you have to engage the world. You have to engage the world that you have. And this even goes back to last week's episode where we talked about the amount of companies importing foreign-born workers. We should advocate for change. We should do what we can to get that done. I think it will massively change over the next couple of years. But as it stands right now, if you're graduating from college, we know a lot of young guys who are graduating from college right now or just getting into college whose career prospects are not great. And that sucks, and I'm sorry, but neither were mine. My career prospects weren't great, and I had to do something I hated. I hate being a sales guy. I hate it. I hate everyone I work. I don't hate everybody I work with, but everybody I work with sucks. And I hate traveling. I'm terrified of planes, but I have to get on one like twice a month now. And I don't have anything in common with normal people. And so going to a bar with a bunch of customers and trying to like figure out something to talk to them about is absurd because I don't know anything about sports. And the only thing I want to talk about is like this stuff and like whether or not God's coming back soon. Like that's the only thing I care about. So it's like there's nothing to talk about. So it's,
have you heard about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
Yeah. That's what I should just keep doing that till I get fired. Just trying to witness to customers until they're like, dude, we're letting you go. That would be an epic way to get fired.
It'd be worth it if one of them converted.
Yeah, it would. I had to do a lot of things I don't like, man. It's just the reality of the situation. And guess what? Guess what the reward is for doing a lot of things I don't like. Jason's going to come work with me on Hyper Premium. Jason gets to quit and come work with me on Hyper Premium for a year. And we're going to give it a really good shot. And we're probably going to do it. It's probably going to work.
Probably.
And when it does, I get to quit and I get to live my dream of being like a writer and a flowery creative while my friend handles all the stuff I don't want to deal with. And I get, I get all this great stuff. I get all this great stuff out of it. God's blessed us tremendously, my family. And it's because I did stuff I don't want to do. I addressed reality as it is. And I use it when I was in my early 20s, I would scream into my phone at my mom. This stupid system, all this, it's all gay. It's set up to go against us and take our money and everything. And I got nowhere, dude. Nowhere. I got a drinking problem. That's what I got. I got a drinking problem.
Did that help?
No, didn't help anything. It made me more fat. It kept my wife up. That's what it did. My wife couldn't get a good night's sleep because I was too busy drunk yelling at my friends at 2 a.m. every night on playing video games. The last analogy I'll make here, this is kind of a dumb one, dork one, but whatever. It's Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering, one of the reasons why it's such a perfect game is because it really, really amazingly replicates life, which is that you really have no control over your circumstances, and then you just respond to them as best as possible. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And so Magic the Gathering, at the beginning of the game, you shuffle your deck, and then you draw 7 cards off the top. And that's your opening hand. And you have no control over what comes into that hand, right? And when I used to suck at Magic, I would draw that opening hand, and almost always it's imperfect. And there are aspects of that hand that you wish you didn't have. And
I like poker.
Yeah. exactly, like poker. And I would get so mad that I wanted it to do this and I wanted to do that, and now he's killing the creatures that I'm playing, and life is happening, and there are people trying to stop me from doing what I want to do. It wasn't until I just accepted that Magic is an imperfect game, in that you are going to have to play in perfect hands and in perfect situations and do what you can do the best you can with what you have. It was when I accepted that I got really, really, really good at Magic. And now I'm as good as anyone else is at the game. And that's it, man. That's kind of it, the essence of the whole thing. And we're at an hour 10, so I'll wrap it up. But you can shake your fist at reality and read a million books on why the system is set up in a way that's not utopian, or you can accept that there are orcs trying to kill you and get a sword. Or you can yell at the orcs about how it's unjust that they're trying to kill you.
Until an arrow goes through your throat.
Yeah, until the arrow goes through your throat. Yeah, your choice. Fight the orcs or complain to them. Do you think that they're going to go, oh, you know what? It is unfair.
He's got a good point.
Yeah, it is. We shouldn't be doing this. It is unfair. Not reality, man. All right, Jason, you got anything for us?
Yeah, I don't think index funds are that bad.
They're not that bad. They're not that bad. They're not that bad.
I will say, so the reason index funds are, okay, I'll say they're a safe way to bet on to use the stock market. They're a passive way to harvest the energy of, and I'm saying the index fund, I don't know how many there are. I'm sure there's many that expose you to different kinds, but the one that I used to listen to a podcast called Choose FI, which is Choose Financial Independence.
Okay, yeah.
Or the FIRE community, financial independence, retire early.
Yeah.
So those guys, and you got a lot of really good ideas about thinking outside the box, as far as where to put your money, where to save, how to beat the system, basically is what they were about. And the index fund that they loved was one that was passively managed, so you don't have, so they talked about, the financial companies that you go through charge you a percentage rate.
Yeah.
So you have to pay basically to have the fund active.
Yeah.
This one had an incredibly low, it was like less than 1%, I think. It was incredibly low because nobody ever managed it. Funds were not being moved around like a mutual fund.
Right.
There was no account manager, fund manager who was going, oh, well, this is doing well, we'll move some of their money over here and this and that. So it was different than a mutual fund. And this particular fund, I don't remember the ticket name for it, but it was the entire U.S. economy. And the theory is that while some of those companies will go to zero, like GE would lose a lot, some of them will go bankrupt and therefore you will lose all of that. There will be companies that will multiply multiple times.
Right.
So they'll increase 400% and you'll benefit off of those.
Right.
So basically with that index fund, if it covers the whole U.S. economy, the only way it fails is for the whole U.S. economy to fail, and for you, or for when it takes a dip, for you to pull your money out at that point, which was the panic move.
Right.
It's like when there's a run on the bank, then you're like, wow, yank my money out, and if I only get 50 cents per dollar, that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
They were saying, don't do that. This is something you put money away in, and you don't have to worry about it. And
right, same Bitcoin argument. Yeah,
it will grow over time.
Yeah,
because the U.S. economy has grown at an average rate over the last 40 years of, I think, 8% is the numbers. That's including the recession in 2007, 2008. That's including that. It's still maintained the average of. So, if you're betting on it's betting on the U.S. market,
right?
So, it's not a way to get ahead, but it's a way to maintain.
Well, I mean, depending on who you ask.
Well, and if
inflation, the rate of inflation is 10 to 15%
now,
it has been for 20 years.
20 years,
something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
the real rate of inflation, like if you on houses to some extent, it hasn't. But like if you on like Bitcoin, gold, these assets, these things, like this is the stuff that's important to own.
Sure. Their point is, though, that if you're trying to pick things that will be winners over the long course, you'll lose, and the index fund is going to eliminate that gambling average.
I think, so this is, we're tapping into a much bigger debate.
And I didn't want to. No, I was almost just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
To be
That's
funny.
fine. We can leave it at that. Yes. Listen, here's what I'll say. Do your own research. It's not financial advice. Index funds are just as risky in their own way as going after individual stocks. They're just as risky. It's in a different way because you have to now doesn't matter.
Well, it guarantees losses and it guarantees wins.
It guarantees loss. Yeah, guarantees losses and guarantees win.
Whereas if you're going after individuals and if you know how to do your research and then you can win much bigger. But you can also lose everything.
Nothing in life is free.
No.
Everywhere you're going to pay something. You're going to pay a price somewhere.
Yep.
And the price you pay when picking individual stocks is time. That's the price you pay because you have to do the research and figure it out and educate yourself.
Right.
That's the price you pay. The price you pay with index funds is actual money, is price. In that, had you done the work, put in the time
to pick individual
stocks, you
Right.
would have made more money.
So it's a passive thing
Right,
for
it's
people
a passive
who are
thing. Right. And so it's analogous to the fact that Tannen and his brother fix their cars and I don't.
Mm-hmm.
They save thousands every year on car repairs,
but they also spend hundreds of hours. And there's
I don't know about hundreds. But
I'm talking about education and knowledge over the period of time.
Yes. Right.
That the dollar amount, if they had put all that time towards a wage, that's an incredible amount of money they've put into that.
Right.
Potential earnings,
yes.
we'll say.
Yeah. So what I'll say is this.
So, yeah, it's where you...
The issue I take, I guess, is not with index funds in general, but it's with the fact that people like Dave Ramsey treat index funds like they're some sort of god. They're like almost idolatrous with like their way.
His audience, though, is people who are not good with money.
Okay. Well, maybe they should.
So my point, or who aren't investors, as it will.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that is exactly what I'm saying is that you don't get right now. If you're choosing not to be an investor, that is you not engaged. That's you complaining to the orcs that it's unfair.
Unless it's a choice.
I guess unless you accept unless you
say, I know that I'll have losses, but I also know that as long as the U.S. economy doesn't go bankrupt entirely by the time I retire, this should at least it'll grow, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll outpace inflation. That depends on how inflation goes.
Right.
If somehow the reins get pulled in on that and the U.S. economy gets the brakes taken off, great.
They
will do a lot better, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, all right, guys. I think we got to a good spot. Pick your battles.
Dave Ramsey is a good place to start.
Dave Ramsey is a good. I don't want to make that. I do not want to give you guys the impression that if you're 19 and you don't know how to use money, Dave Ramsey's what's his like intro he's got a class. You can order
the class.
Thing. Yeah, he's got like a
Financial Peace University.
Okay, yeah, that's I did that,
and it's like a 12-step program or something.
Yeah, that's fine if you want to start there.
That is it's great. It's about eliminating your credit card debt and any other debt,
which is a huge
snowball effect.
Yeah,
so he talks about putting all of your money towards, I think, the debt, whichever one is the highest interest rate. You pay off the highest interest rate first. So you make minimum payments if, let's say, you have 5 credit cards and they have different interest rates, and you minimum pay on all of them except for one, and you focus on putting all of your extra money towards that one, paying it down, getting rid of it because it's hemorrhaging more money in interest on you every single month. And then you move to the next highest one and pay that down.
Yeah. So maybe I'll admit it. I'm going too hard on Dave Ramsey right now.
He's a great place to start.
He's a great place to start.
Responsible with your finances.
If you're a person with 5 credit cards, you probably do need to go listen to some of Dave Ramsey's stuff.
Yes. Yeah, but he's not for everybody because some people don't have the issue.
Yeah. I'm a finance bro. I'm a fintech guy, so it is a little unfair for me to be like, well, you don't know how to use investment strategies.
I'm sure Dave Ramsey knows.
Yeah. But Dave Ramsey also,
He takes phone calls from people who are like, I don't understand why.
Yeah. They're like,
Why
I've
am I
been paying my
credit-
minimum payments on my student loans, and now it's more.
That's the kind of people Dave Ramsey's. That's his audience.
All right,
It's
okay,
kind of like people getting angry at Doug Wilson when he's talking to a very specific.
Yeah, fair
And
enough.
they're like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "I'm not talking to you.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm just a big enough person that it."
All right, then I recant everything I just said about Dave Ramsey being dumb. Dave Ramsey's all right. It is funny though. People do call. I've a couple ones where people call him and are very obviously lying. They're like, some kid calls him and is like, "I have $1 million, and I own a business that does $1 million a month. I'm 7. What do I do?" And he's like, "You what?" He's like, "Do you know how strange this sounds?" Like,
You realize, yeah.
yeah, and the kid's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "All right, well," and he just like goes for it, whatever. I mean, I guess
That's really
at the end of the
funny.
day, what's he gonna do? Say,
Yeah, you're a liar.
You're a liar. Click. Yeah, no.
He might.
He's got. I mean, he's got a show to run.
Yeah, he's like, "Who's screening these calls?"
Yeah, and he is. It is sad. It does really suck how hard he goes against Bitcoin. He does not understand it at all.
Okay.
And points a lot of people who would be very greatly benefited by it in the wrong direction on that one. So, but I do take it all back.
Most of it.
I take it all back except for the Bitcoin thing. Dave Ramsey, I guess, not as bad of a guy as I thought he was. It makes sense that I would hear it and be like, this guy's eating jelly every morning. This guy's a retard. All right, guys, that's it. We've gone over quite a bit. Sorry about that. I guess listen to this one in 2 parts or whatever.
We're not really sorry.
Yeah, we're not really sorry. This is a lot of fun for us. And that's it, guys. We love you. We are praying for you. Please go to church. Please email us if you have any questions, comments, concerns. You want to call us gay. You want to say, Ethan, you are whatever. Email us at workhard@hyperpremium.co.
Please subscribe.
Yes.
Please share with your mom. Please share with your dad and your friends. And consider throwing us the cost of a coffee every month.
Yeah, you can go on our Substack and pledge. That is no cost to you, but it will help us get an idea of who's willing to pay something for. And you won't. It's not. By the way, when we do implement some sort of pay structure to this whole thing, it's this part of the show will remain free. I would assume.
Okay. Yeah, we
There will
haven't
be
discussed
an
that.
added value for your money. We will not demand that
Yank
work
everything
hard.
out from under you.
Yeah. All right, guys. We love you. We'll see you later. We are praying for you. Please go to church. Find a woman.
And have some babies.
Have some babies. Work hard. Accept the world around you as it is. Do not bellyache. Do not turn yourself into this soft little clam of a man. Be strong. Be big. Be Aragorn. Stand up against the orcs. Bye-bye.